to the podium the Honorable Premier Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning everyone. Morning to fellow cabinet colleagues, good morning to members of the press. I see members of the High Command of the Police Force, permanent secretaries, good morning all. Welcome to another edition of our monthly press conference, when we are here hopefully to update the general public on matters that might be of some importance. I want to start by extending congratulations to Montpelier Hotel, Montpelier Plantation. I'm told that they've made the Brides Magazine's list of world's best 100 honeymoon destinations for 2018. That's a good thing. Nevis is good for honeymoons. And so Montpelier is on that list, and I want to congratulate them. I also want to congratulate Minister Eric Evelyn and his team for delivering, I think, by all accounts, a very successful Culturama 44. And I want to congratulate all the participants and the winners. I also want to thank the sponsors for their sponsorship. Minister Evelyn has advised that the prize-giving ceremony has in fact occurred, and he has indicated that that occurred on Saturday, August 25th, and that over $250,000 was paid out during that prize-giving ceremony. So that was on August 25th, and I'm very pleased that that has already occurred. He has also asked me to tell you that he'll be having a press conference on Thursday, September 6th at 9:30 in the morning at the Cultural Village. And members of the press are invited and to take early note, so that they will have a press conference, a wrap-up, if you will, about the Culturama and the Culturama celebrations on Thursday, September 6th at 9:30 at the Cultural Village. But Culturama, I think, 44 went well. I want to commend the entire team. I also want to commend our security forces, because I believe this is the 6th year running that we've had no incidents of any significance of violence or crime, criminal activity during Culturama. And I think it speaks well of the police and the security forces generally. It speaks well of our people, that we would have gone out and had fun and not engaged in any criminality. And so I want to commend Minister Evelyn, his first time out, first at bat for Culturama, and I think he scored some runs. So I want to congratulate him for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very important announcement, and that is that the Acting Deputy Governor General, Her Honor Marjorie Morton, has decided to demit office, and she will demit office as of the 31st of August. That is the 31st of this month, so literally in a few days. The Cabinet has looked at the matter, and the Cabinet has decided that the replacement for Her Honor Marjorie Morton is a woman, and for us that was important, that we continue that rich tradition of having women in these types of positions, and that woman is Mrs. Hailita Miranda Liebert of Brown Hill. Mrs. Liebert is a retired principal education officer. She had a stellar career in education spanning some 39 years. She's a holder of a Bachelor of Science in Education degree from the University of Miami, Florida. And I believe she was also the Nevis Medal of Honor, St. Christopher Nevis Medal of Honor awardee 2005, and she would have received a Nevis Island Administration Independence Award in 2014 for her excellent contribution in the field of education. Ladies and gentlemen, these positions are positions of high constitutional significance, and they demand that we get for them people of the absolute highest probity and integrity, people who have lived a life which is unblemished and a life that can be an inspiration to others. We felt that Mrs. Hailita Liebert has lived such a life, and that at this stage we are very grateful to her for being willing to come forward and to serve in this very significant capacity in the island of Nevis. I think it's a good day for Nevis. It's a good day for women in Nevis. It's a good day for governance in Nevis. It's a good day that we could have someone of this caliber stepping forward and serving in that capacity. I want to go on record to thank Her Honor Marjorie Morton. I think she was an excellent choice. Regrettably, she did not want to continue, but she has certainly served us well in the period of time that she's been there as Deputy Governor. And I want to extend my warmest appreciation and gratitude to her for her service and to wish her well in her future endeavors. I would end by inviting one and all to the courthouse on Friday at, I believe, 10:30 or thereabouts, when we have the formal swearing-in ceremony for Mrs. Hailita Liebert. And this is the High Court in Charlestown as our new Deputy Governor General for Nevis. And so I believe that that is a significant announcement, and that Mrs. Liebert, I hope, will be welcomed by all, and I know that she will do a good job. She has the necessary temperament, she has the necessary education, she has the necessary background. She has worked with people all of her life, and I think she will do an excellent job as the new Deputy Governor General for Nevis, following in the footsteps of those who would have gone before. I also, ladies and gentlemen, wanted to inform that we have received the new ambassador for the Republic of China, Taiwan, to St. Kitts and Nevis, His Excellency Tom Chi Chang Lee. And His Excellency Lee paid his maiden visit to Nevis yesterday. He's only been in the position for 2 weeks. And he came to Nevis yesterday, and I can say that he came bearing substantial gifts, because he showed up yesterday and we had a presentation ceremony where he delivered 2 tractors, brand new, 2 pickup trucks, brand new, a backhoe, brand new, and a vehicle for the Premier's office, also brand new, all of which we have been told come to a combined total of over 1.5 million EC dollars. And in addition to that, he delivered a check for US $15,000 to purchase a walk-in freezer for the Ministry of Agriculture to be placed at the agro-processing unit and to assist in the ongoing efforts at securing a significant market for our mango pulp. I want to, ladies and gentlemen, pay special homage and extend special thanks and congratulations to our Deputy Premier, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who spearheaded these efforts. And as I said at the ceremony that we held, that oftentimes people say, what are you doing in terms of diplomacy? What are you doing in terms of engaging with other governments? Well, I think yesterday we saw the fruits of that engagement. And those fruits, I dare say, would not have been possible were it not for Minister Jeffers and his team. And as I mentioned his team, he mentioned yesterday that the Honorable Eric Evelyn, when he was in a much more prominent position as Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, was one who pushed really hard to make this possible. And so yesterday the Honorable Eric Evelyn was also on hand to see the fruits of his labor come to some fruition. And ladies and gentlemen, I think I am very pleased. I believe the handover yesterday was the most significant that we have ever seen in the history of Nevis, happening at one time, that a foreign government would have gifted to us over $1.5 million in equipment. And this equipment is going to be very valuable to the Ministry of Agriculture. It's going to assist us in clearing the lands, clearing various estates, and certainly the tractors are going to be pressed into use. Indeed, I believe they're already in use in plowing lands and making lands available as we continue our thrust to try and get more people involved in agriculture and try to feed ourselves, because I think that that's important. I'm pretty excited about the mango pulping business, because we know that we waste. Yesterday the minister said millions. Perhaps he's right. I would have said hundreds of thousands, but maybe millions. But we waste a lot of mangoes each year. They are all over, and we eat as much as we can, and the rest, the monkeys eat as much as they can, and then the others go to waste. The agricultural department has started to pulp mangoes. And the whole purpose behind this additional freezer is to provide more storage capacity. And the minister has advised me that already we're seeing the Nevisian mango pulp showing up in Anguilla. And we're hopeful that we can get it to Antigua and get it to St. Martin and start to export, to add value to what we're doing here in agriculture. Mangoes we're gifted with naturally. It makes only good sense to capitalize. So the idea is to pulp, store, sell. hotels, restaurants, I'm making a plug here, get your mango pulp from the agricultural department, the agro-processing unit. I think they're doing an excellent job. And again, I want to commend the minister for his work and for his foresight, because it is he who brought these various proposals for equipment and the like to me and had me advance them in my other capacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I thank definitely the government and people of Taiwan for responding in such a positive way. I'm told that more good news is on the way, because they have agreed to assist us with the much talked about park at Pinnis. And so yesterday it was perhaps symbolic that we had this celebration, the handover, on the site of that park. And I believe a delegation will be in, is it this week, from Taiwan, and into early next week to look at this project and to formalize and finalize plans. And so I'm delighted to announce that as well. And to just thank Taiwan. They have remained and continue to be an excellent partner for St. Kitts and Nevis. And as I like to say, not only on St. Kitts, they've come to Nevis and done quite a bit on Nevis. And yesterday was a clear example of that. So I want to thank His Excellency Tom Chi Chang Lee and his team and the government and people of the Republic of China and Taiwan for their continued partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, let me turn quickly to the CSEC and CAPE results. Those are in the overseas examination results. And I believe that the Honorable Junior Minister, Youthant Troy Libert, he should be in due course making an address. I believe that we have been delayed because some information was not forthcoming. I think the details for Spanish, as when last I checked, they had not yet come. But the preliminary results suggest that Nevis has again performed well. And while, as I say, more details will come from the Honorable Minister in his address, I just wanted to highlight just a few things. Sixth form college pass rate improved from 84% to 89%. The two government schools combined attained an 84% pass rate. The Gingerland Secondary School and the Charleston Secondary School combined. The Charleston Secondary School pass rate was 79%. But the Gingerland Secondary School had the best pass rate in the entire Federation of 96%. That means 9.5 out of every 10 students that went into the exam passed. Not even 9.5, 9.6 of every 10 passed. And so I want to commend the staff, the principal at the Gingerland Secondary School for yet again, because I believe that this is the second year that they've had the best performance in the Federation. And I want to commend them, and also to commend the principal and staff at the Charleston Secondary School, which is a much bigger school. We understand that. I see Mr. P.S. Edson Elliott is here. And he would probably say it's a much bigger school, so harder to manage. But nevertheless, I think the results from both have been excellent, and I want to congratulate them. The Nevis International Secondary School, they registered an increase in their pass rate from 75% to 81.08%. There were 204 private candidates registered to write CSEC exams this year, and the pass rate was 61% among the private candidates. Also this year, 10 candidates were registered to write CAPE exams and returned a 50% pass rate. That is private candidates. The sixth form college, the most individual units attempted over a 2-year period was 19. The outstanding candidates for the first and second year are as follows. CAPE first year, Tarana Kaka. She had 5 units, 5 grade 1s. Kervincia Webb, 6 units, 3 grade 1s. Shania Taylor, 4 units, 3 grade 1s. Yoloni Pemberton, 5 units, 2 grade 1s. Second year students at CAPE, outstanding students. Roger Williams, a name we have grown very accustomed to. He passed 19 units, 8 grade 1s. Ronicia Liburd, she did 10 units, 7 grade 1s. Devonte Jones, 13 units, 4 grade 1s. Anika Ferguson, 11 units, 3 grade 1s. Tishella Woodley, 11 units, 2 grade 1s. And Brittany Chatterton, 10 units, 2 grade 1s. For the examination period, the most subjects attempted at the Charleston Secondary School was 11. The outstanding candidates at CSS are as follows. Delia Slack, 11 subjects, 4 grade 1s. Adessa Farrell, 11 subjects, 4 grade 1s. Ziska Herbert, 11 subjects, 4 grade 1s. Ursha Stapleton, 10 subjects, 9 grade 1s. Kyan Body, 10 subjects, 6 grade 1s. And Joseph Tomlinson, 10 subjects, 4 grade 1s. The most individual subjects attempted at the Gingerland Secondary School was 11. The outstanding candidates at Gingerland were Thalia Dorr, 11 subjects, 8 grade 1s. Jelani Manners, 10 subjects, 6 grade 1s. Aliyah Powell, 10 subjects, 5 grade 1s. Amber Adams, 10 subjects, 4 grade 1s. Nikela Nisbet, 10 subjects, 3 grade 1s. And Jaquan Lawrence, 9 subjects, 2 grade 1s. At our last high school, the Nevis International Secondary School, the highest number of subjects attempted was 8. And the outstanding candidates there were Jermaine Walters, who did 7 with 1 grade 1, and Shema Keynes, who did 5 with 1 grade 1. The following subjects returned 100% passes at the Nevis Sixth Form College. 100%. Agricultural Science Unit 2, Applied Mathematics Units 1 and 2, Art and Design Units 1 and 2, Biology Units 1 and 2, Building and Mechanical Engineering Drawing Unit 1, Caribbean Studies Unit 1, Digital Media Unit 1, Entrepreneurship Units 1 and 2, Chemistry Units 1 and 2, Environmental Science Unit 2, French Units 1 and 2, Geography Unit 1, Green Engineering Units 1 and 2, History Unit 2, Information Technology Unit 2, Law Unit 2, Physical Education Unit 1 and 2, Literature in English Units 1 and 2, Physics Units 1 and 2, Pure Mathematics Unit 2, Spanish Units 1 and 2, and Tourism Unit 2. Cape Integrated Math was introduced as a compulsory unit 2 years ago. Still poses a challenge for our students. The pass rate this year, however, improved from 51% to 68%. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I will not get into the details because I know the Honorable Youth and Troy Lightwood will come with an address and he will give you all the details. It is only for me as the Premier and the Senior Minister of Education to congratulate all of our students, their parents, their family members who would have supported them, and also to congratulate the principals and the hard-working teachers. I was privileged to have been invited to attend a back-to-school session at NEPAC with the teachers, and I think the spirit is high, they seem very motivated, and I believe that these are the kinds of results that will continue to motivate them. So congratulations to the Minister, his team, the Prominent Secretary who's here, the PEO, and the entire team at the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education, and the principals, staff, and students for a job well done. I think that Nevis has punched well above its weight, and that we look forward to even better results in the years ahead. We are coming up on our 35th anniversary of independence, and it is a significant milestone. 35 years of independence since we first became an independent country on the 19th of September 1983. Those independence celebrations are going to be spread over a period, I think, of 3 months. And a lot of activities are planned both in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm encouraging our people to go out and be a part of these activities. As part of that celebration, the Nevis Island Administration and the Cabinet has decided that we would want to stage a free reggae concert at the Cultural Village. Free, meaning you don't have to pay. And the idea behind it is that just to give something back, but also to get a genre of music, a type of artist that we feel would be celebratory and would be wholesome, and the type of artist we feel that really would be conscious. That's the word I'm looking for. And so we have looked at it, and after some discussion, we have decided that on the 16th of September, that is Sunday, the 16th of September, starting at 9 p.m., we're going to have on the stage for the first time ever in the Federation 2 major reggae bands, Third World and Steel Pulse. They will appear on the same stage on that one night for a free concert for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, because we're hoping the people of St. Kitts will come over as well. And we hope to stage that on September 16th at the Cultural Village. Third World was already contracted to come. Steel Pulse has been added, and I should say a bit about that. Steel Pulse, many would know, is one of the leading reggae bands of all time. What many would not know is that the original drummer from Steel Pulse was from Nevis. And his name was Stephen, I think, Grizzly Nisbet. And he was, I believe, from the Brick Hill area. And so Grizzly was the drummer for Steel Pulse through their most successful years. Sadly, Grizzly passed away. And so Steel Pulse actually reached out to us to indicate that they would like to have something in Nevis as a tribute to the deceased Grizzly Nisbet. And Division, who was part of their meteoric rise to stardom in England, where they were all met and where Steel Pulse would have formed and would have gone on to greatness. And so we felt that it was a good occasion to invite them to come on the Heroes Weekend, to celebrate on that weekend. And so we've added Steel Pulse to Third World, and I'm told that we have some other local artists, De jour, Byron Messiah, and Ripper, who are also going to be part of that show. The show is a free show. We're asking people to come with two things: your best behavior, and we're asking you to wear national colors. So if you come with a flag tie around your head or something, but bring something that is nationalistic, that we can really portray St. Kitts and Nevis. We're calling it the National Heroes Concert. And it will happen at 9 p.m. on the evening of September 16th. We will start the promotion soon. You'll see flyers and jingles and all of that. But I thought it important to make the announcement that we're going to have Steel Pulse and Third World on the same stage one night in Nevis. And I believe that everybody, from the churchgoers, our good Christian folk, to those who are perhaps not so inclined, everybody can come for good, conscious, uplifting music as we celebrate our Heroes Weekend. And bearing in mind, of course, that one of the heroes among the lot is our own Right Excellent and Right Honorable Sir Simeon Daniel. So we invite one and all to come out and be a part of that. I see some of the press nodding their heads, so it looks like we might have done a good choice. And so I ask you to tell somebody, and I ask them to tell somebody else. I'm hopeful that we can get 10,000 people in the cultural village for this show. After all, it's free. So 10,000 people. And I'm hoping that people can come out and put on their St. Kitts Nevis colors and really make it a festive occasion. So we are looking forward to that in a few weeks' time. We have a new payment system at the Ministry of Finance. I believe a press release would have gone out. I am told there were no major hiccups, but the PS Finance is here, and he would have advised that the new system went into place. It's just a new clearing system. We were a little concerned that there might have been some hiccups, but nobody called me, so I assume everybody got their pay. So we are grateful for that. So I just want to announce that that's going on. Let me just give a quick update on a few projects. The Minister, Deputy Premier Alexis Jeffers, he would have announced that the Newcastle Police Station, which he has been tasked with completing, that is going well. The Piat Wali, he has also been tasked with completing. That too is going well and progressing apace. I've had a report, and bear with me please, from Minister Brand, our hard-working Minister of Public Works and Utilities. And Minister Brand has indicated that the various projects under his charge have also been going well. We are, of course, engaged in a massive rehabilitation of the Brownhill Road, project that I'm very proud of because I moved to Brownhill when I was 8 years old. I'm now just on the cusp of 50, and I met that road in that condition. So it means that that road has been in that condition for perhaps over 50 years. And I am delighted that it has come to this time that we can do something about it. So Mr. Brand is reporting that we have so far constructed 800 feet of U-drain, 1,600 feet of curbs, 700 feet of slipper drains. We have excavated and filling of roadway, 2,000 feet completed thus far. We have actually started asphalting already, 600 feet completed. Retaining walls, some 880 feet have been completed. And we've done a concrete road over there of 200 feet. I saw the concrete road, and the only regret was that my beloved cousin Two-Tone is not there to see it, because it leads right to her house. And she passed away not so long ago. I know she would have been dancing, Mark, run, on that road if she was around. But I saw it and I really thought it was an excellent, excellent road. And I want to thank the Minister Brandt, for his hard work. He's a quiet fella. He doesn't make a lot of noise. But I will tell you, he has been doing a lot of work in Stony Grove, in Brown Hill, up in Hamilton. Even I was in Jessups the other day. And as a young man in Jessup said, I'm so happy you all didn't forget us. And I said, no, this is one Nevis. We don't forget anybody. So the idea is that we will continue to do what we need to do. And so I commend Minister Brandt. The bypass road, also because one of the things they're doing in Brown Hill, creating a bypass from Brown Hill down to Cherry Gardens, or down to Prospect, I should say. And that bypass road, we have already filled and graded 1,500 feet completed. And we've retrained the water course, 800 feet of that is completed. At Hamilton, we have excavated, filled, and graded a roadway, 720 feet has been completed. We also engaged in some general repairs to roads in Hanley's Road, Rice's and Matchman's Road, general road patching around the Island Main Road, which we do from time to time, and we're repairing a concrete road in Zetlands after some new water line installation. The Charleston Primary School, we are adding, remodeling the ground floor there, that is completed. We are now at the stage where they're forming the first floor slab and steel work is completed. We're reconfiguring the external plumbing and electrical has been completed. So Charleston Primary School, and the students and teachers can look forward to an improved facility when they go there. I know my good friend here, the PS in education, is happy to hear that. The Ivor Walters Primary, we are adding some temporary classrooms there. I'm told that the foundation is almost 75% complete, and we're adding new bathrooms as well at the Ivor Walters Primary School. We're asking parents, teachers, staff to be patient with us. I know a lot of times the government gets some licks because people say, why you leave things so late? Well, the answer is simple, money. Simple answer. It's all good and well for us sometimes to say we want to start this at a particular time, but sometimes you have to do things at a time when the Ministry of Finance says we have the money to pay for it. Because I don't know what's worse, starting and then having contractors saying they can't get paid, or leaving it and perhaps getting a bit of a delay until we're in a position. So we do apologize for the delays. It is not indicative of any poor planning. Oftentimes the plans are there, but we can only move when we see the way to pay. General upgrades are being undertaken in all of our schools. These include repairs to doors and windows, building structures, painting, etc. The idea is that when students go back to school, they should have a better environment. Equally, when staff go back to school, they should have a better environment. Selling of quarry sand and crushed stones. The Deputy Premier has been really pushing the idea that Nevis must be exporting something. And he wants to export mango pulp. We've spoken about that already. But he looked like he wants to export things you can't eat as well. So he's saying that on the 8th of August, we exported some 2,778 yards of crushed stones to Guyana, and we yielded $136,122 from that. On the 14th of August, we sent some 1,930 yards of quarry sand to French St. Martin, and we yielded $115,800 from that. And on the 17th of August, we sent some 2,935 yards of crushed stones to Guyana, and we yielded $143,815 from that. So the total so far has been $395,737, and I want to commend again Deputy Premier. He's saying in 1 month. So maybe if the month had more days, it would have been even more money. I don't know. So I think we also should point out that we have not imported any crushed stones in Nevis for the year thus far. And that means that we've been able to supply all the contractors when they have asked. And so we have become self-sufficient so far in the 8 months this year with crushed stones. Employment figures. Let me just switch gears and say a bit about our employment figures. Our employment figures have improved, I'm very pleased to say. And those figures, which stood at 4,614 jobs at the end of the first quarter 2018, by the end of the second quarter, we had added 226 jobs, and we're at 4,840 jobs, a modest increase of 4.9%. Job creation, as you know, is something that is clearly very important. Students are coming out of school on a regular basis each year, and we need to find avenues for them by expanding the economy. The government, of course, absorbs as many as we can, but certainly we encourage the private sector as well to utilize all the concessions that the government has given to generate some additional employment. I think we're moving incrementally in the right direction. 4.9% increase in employment over the first quarter to the second quarter, I think, is significant. And I believe the increase is also important because we also understand that the second quarter is when the economy tends to taper off because of the seasonal nature of our tourism product. And so the high point tends to be around December, January, and then you see things start to taper off April, May, June, as the case may be. So the fact that we have 226 new jobs, and these are registered, so these are people that we've captured. We anticipate that they're people that we have not captured. And so I continue to beseech people to do the right thing, to get their work permit if they're non-nationals, to register with Social Security, because what you put in is what you get out, and to ensure that they're on the rolls. So whenever you see in our economy, we say we have 226 new jobs for the quarter, I can assure you that it's probably many more than that, because quite a few people do not register. They are under the radar, so to speak. And so we have done everything. We have granted amnesties, we have granted reduction in work permits, we have done everything to encourage people to do the right thing. And I keep saying from this rostrum that if after doing everything to encourage you to do the right thing, you still insist on doing the wrong thing, then you cannot be upset with anybody if there are consequences. So I try to be as straightforward as possible. I believe you give people every chance. You demonstrate to them that they are welcome and they must bring themselves into conformity with our laws. But if after doing all that, they decide that they still want to do the wrong thing, then, as I say, they cannot be upset if there are consequences. And so, for all of those who are out there and who are working illegally, working under the radar, I'm asking them to come above the radar and to register with Social Security and the like, so that we can ensure that they are properly covered. So the employment figures, I think, are trending in the right direction. 4.9% increase. We have more work to do in that regard, but we continue to do so. The Poverty Alleviation Program, we know that that program was announced federally. It has now come to the island of Nevis after the Culturama season. The registration process began in Nevis on Monday, the 27th of August, so that's this week, Monday, and it will run for 2 weeks until Friday, September 7th. I am advised by the Minister of Social Development, Social Services, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, that the process is going very smoothly and persons are being encouraged to be truthful. That's important. Remember, the $500 allowance is intended for households with a gross income less than $3,000 per month. So it's a top-up, if you will, for those households. It was a plank of the Team Unity manifesto. It was something that was promised, and I am delighted that it is a commitment that has been made and a commitment that is now being kept. But we're asking people to be honest, because your information will be back-checked. It will be verified. So don't come and say you're making only $500 a month when you know that is not the case. Because we will back-check the information, we will verify the information, and those clearly who would have misrepresented would not have the benefit of the relief that we are granting. So we are asking people to go out. Please look for the notices to know when the information gatherers will be in your community. We have put out notices to say when they will be in the different communities. And I don't want anybody to say they were left out. I want our people, I keep saying it. Some say maybe my colloquialism is not the best, but I say if you hear food sharing, take your plate and go. So I don't want people to feel left out. Some people are saying, oh, we don't support this party. So listen, if food sharing, take your plate and go. And go and put yourself in a position where you can benefit, because these are benefits for all of us. All of us. So I'm asking our people to go and ensure that the information is collected. This is a poverty alleviation mechanism. It is intended to assist persons to lift them out of poverty. We are going to issue ultimately vouchers to assist you with your food, to assist you with your utilities, your essentials. And the idea here is to really give people something tangible that can be of assistance to them. So we're asking for people to go out and be a part of that and to benefit from it. We are hopeful that as we progress, as the minimum wage increases and the like, as the economy expands, that fewer and fewer people would be on the roll for this $500. But as it is now, we recognize that we have pockets of poverty within our community, and we're inviting persons to go and take advantage of this social intervention designed to help them. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage those whom you may know to take advantage of this. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can segue quickly, just to look very briefly at some data from the Ministry of Finance. I have before me some fiscal data, and dealing with tax revenue. We are seeing a 5.55% increase in tax revenue over the period last year to this year, the same period up to July 2017 and now July 2018. We've collected $60.9 million this year as opposed to $57.7 last year. Social services levy, which is always a good indicator of your employment situation, that has moved from 5.8 million last year at the same time to 6.4 million this year. Only people who work in pay social services levy. So if that number is trending upwards, it means that your employment numbers are trending upwards. And that is suggesting a 10.34% increase in social services levy collection. Property tax has increased by some 20.83%. From 2.4 million last year to 2.9 million this year in the same period of time. And that has everything to do with the amnesty and our recent drive to increase the tax roll. A lot of people out there have beautiful homes and are not paying any taxes because they're not on the tax roll, the property tax roll, or the tax rolls have not been updated. I'm asking people again to do the right thing, to go in and have a conversation with the tax authorities. But the tax authorities are also coming around and ensuring that more properties are properly brought within the tax rolls. And we're going to see more of that continuing, but so far I think the results have been useful. We're seeing a slight increase, 6.8% in VAT collections, from $20.6 million to $22 million. We're also seeing an increase in stamp duties from 3.9 million to 4.8 million, a 23% increase thus far. And that has a lot to do. I think the last time I was here, I said that Four Seasons Resort Estates had announced that they were having the most sales ever. They were selling at a very prodigious rate at Four Seasons these very expensive villas. Well, each villa that's sold, as you know, there's a transfer tax, stamp duty that's paid. And so that we're now seeing in our revenue collection the effect of that. So when there are property sales and the property market is doing well, it means that the government gets some taxes from it. And so we are very happy to see that. I see, based on what I see for Cabinet's consideration later today, that there are a lot of other sales that are coming through and the government collects stamp duties from those sales. So we hope that that number is going to continue to trend upwards. But it also again indicates that the property market is doing well, is recovering from many years of some depression, and that people are now coming in again and buying, and not only buying homes and villas and land, but buying at the higher end. I'm seeing values of $5 and $6 million US that people are purchasing homes for in Nevis. So it's good news all around for the market, good news for the realtors, good news for the government, and the good people at Inland Revenue. Vehicle license and registration, we've moved from just about 450,000 to 530,000 at the same time this year, 17.78% increase. That is largely due, we are told, to the increase in the number of vehicles that are coming into the island. And that has other problems associated with it, but we'll have to deal with those. But certainly in terms of vehicle license and registration, that too is up some 17%. every bit of data you get from finance has two sides. You have the income, and obviously you have the expenditure. Your role as government is to try and maximize your income and minimize your expenditure within reasonable bounds, because certainly government can't run like our private business runs. There are areas of expenditure to help the indigent, to elevate people's social services that whether you earn or not, you have to find the ability to pay. But I am very happy to say that I have said to the team, we have to ensure that we are as prudent, fiscally prudent as possible. And the numbers so far, team, congratulations, the numbers are looking reasonably well. And on the expenditure side, our total expenditure has in fact dropped by 8.9%, comparing last year this time to this year. Our recurrent expenditure has dropped by 4.37%. And personal emoluments, which is always a stubborn area, that has dropped by a nominal 0.24%. But the fact that it has dropped is also useful, because, of course, we'd have had increments and all of those, and still we will see a nominal drop. Capital expenditure, which always does ruin to your budget, because that's where the big money on roads and all that is spent. We have seen a reduction in capital expenditure of 32.13% compared last year, same time as now. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We're trying to maximize revenue and trying to keep a hold on expenditure. And it is my hope that we continue in that vein. And once we continue in that vein, I think that at the end of the year, during the budget debates, we are likely to have good news to report to the people of Nevis. I'm trying to wrap up because I know the press may have some questions. Let me just quickly indicate, by way of reiteration, that the Household Assistance Program, the Monday 27th to Friday 31st August, again, well, Monday has gone, Tuesday has gone, Wednesday, today, the Butlers Community Center from 9 to 2 p.m., the Charles Lewis Walters Community Center, Tanleys Road from 9 to 2 p.m., and the ETW Park, Charlestown from 9 to 2 p.m., 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and the Cotton Ground Community Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's where our persons will be gathered collecting information. So let me say that again. Butlers, Hanleys Road, Charles Lewis Walters Community Center, ETW Park, and Cotton Ground. And those, you can go there to these centers between the hours of 9 and 2 today. Between the hours of 4 and 6 p.m., we continue at Butlers, we continue down Hanleys Road, we continue at ETW Park, and also continue at Cotton Ground. So it'll be all day in those jurisdictions, in those areas. Thursday, tomorrow, they're going to be in Brownhill at the Maisie Bartlett Community Center from 9 o'clock, the Jessop's Community Center, and back at the ETW Park from 9 to 2. And then Thursday afternoon, for the people in Bath Village, Alberta Payne Community Center from 4 to 6, Jessop's Community Center, and ETW Park, Charlestown. So that's where the information gatherers will be on Thursday. And on Friday, they're going to be at the Pond Hill Community Center from 9 to 2, Cornmill Training Center in Hard Times from 9 to 2, and the Franklin Brown Community Center in Camps from 9 to 2. And then at the afternoon session, 4 to 6 p.m. on Friday, we'll be at the Prospect Community Center in Prospect, the Cornmill Training Center in Hard Times, and the Franklin Brown Community Center in Camps. Again, I'm asking individuals, please, to go out and to be a part of that. Get the information, share your information, and be able to proceed to benefit from this $500 assistance. Just two other quick notes. The boat passes that we would have announced for students studying at CFBC, that is now in train. I'm told the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education has put something out, and that release has gone out. It is for students who are studying at CFBC and AVIC and the colleges in St. Kitts. Please note that this is for students who are pursuing subjects that are not offered in Nevis. I want to emphasize that because some students opt to go to St. Kitts. They don't have to. They choose to. If you choose to go to St. Kitts then certainly you and your family would have made that choice, and you make the necessary financial arrangements accordingly. If, however, you are studying in St. Kitts because the subject areas are not available in Nevis, then you will be able to benefit, from the 10 passes that we're offering per month to you. And so currently I'm told information gathering, you can get the application form at the Ministry of Education, Marion Heights, and the Department of Education, Marion Heights, and you can fill out that and benefit. The idea is that the process began on Monday the 27th of August, and the passes should be available for the month of September. Some people have called me to say that CFBC is starting or has started already. I'm asking you to be patient. If you even have to buy for the first week, the relief will come in the second week. So the relief coming in the second week is better than what was, which was no relief at all. So I'm asking people to be patient, because starting in September, we will have the passes being issued. So I thank you for that. From the Ministry of Health, I see we have with us the junior minister in the Ministry of Health, Madam, here's the Brandy Williams, and her team is indicating that the context of employment in the Ministry of Health, we have a shortage of nurses at the institutional level that continues to be a real serious problem for us. We encourage a lot of youngsters coming out of school, please, if they're interested, we're looking for nurses, we're looking to assist people to train to become nurses. It is a noble profession, and they say it's not a profession, it's a calling. So we're saying to people who have that inclination, are caregivers, natural caregivers, please to come forward and assist us. And so this is an area where youngsters coming out of school may want to gravitate towards, because we need nurses. 2 registered nurses were recently hired, placement at the hospital, and 1 at the Flamboyant Nursing Home. And we are hoping to employ a few more in the ensuing months. I believe that the last discussion we had, we were even talking about going as far as the Philippines to see if we could recruit nurses. That is how desperate we are for nurses. Of course, when I became Minister of Health some years ago, we had brought in some retired nurses. I brought them back. And many of those have really given excellent service, yeoman service over the years that they worked, and they've come back to serve again. Naturally, they can't continue forever. And so we do need our people to go into the nursing profession, and I make this appeal for our youngsters especially, to look at that, boys and girls, young men and young women. We would like to see you involved in nursing. The 6-week nursing attendant course was just completed. I'm pleased to announce that all 9 participants were successful in their final exams. 2 participants were from St. John's and St. George's Senior Citizen Home. The plans are to have the remaining ones integrated into the Community Health Alexandra and the Flamboyant Nursing Home. Non-communicable disease and their health implications are a major public health concern. 3 persons are currently in Taiwan on a month-long training as part of the Chronic Kidney Disease Prevention Project, which is a 3-year project that the government and people of the Republic of China and Taiwan has launched with the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The persons currently in Taiwan are Dr. Ravi Shankar from the District Health, Nurse Visha Stapleton from our hospital, and Michael Henville from the ministry. As you know, Michael Henville is a chef who has been tasked with preparing and educating us about healthier eating. Dr. Judy Nisbet is currently in St. Lucia. She's attending the UNAIDS-supported Caribbean Cytometry and Analytical Society Expert Summit. HIV remains, of course, one of the communicable diseases of importance here in Nevis and in the wider Federation, and so we welcome this training. At our facilities, I'm pleased to announce that the Gingerland Dental Unit has been successfully relocated to the newly renovated Dyslexia Building. The unit currently has 2 operatory, 1 functional, and the other to be in operation shortly. This is an improvement in the dental unit work environment, and we're hoping to expand the service being offered in that area. An official opening will be held shortly. The hospital expansion project is on track and going according to schedule. According to the construction manager, 52.5% of the foundation stage has now been completed. That includes cistern, foundation, and walls, and also footings and walls. Ladies and gentlemen, I have tried to give a report in a broad area, and I end now by indicating that the police have sent out to vendors in Charlestown a notice seeking to restrict the illegal activity that has popped up of persons vending all around Charlestown. I recognize, coming from where I have come from, I understand, and the cry often is that poor people have to make a living. And it is not for me or for this government to stand in the way of anyone making a living. But if we are a society of laws and we are to respect the laws, we are asking people to make a living within the confines of the law. And some of us have a tendency, it seems, to say some laws are not important. So when the police, for example, go and they find large amounts of marijuana, we abuse them on social media. Tell them, leave the weed alone, go look for gunmen. And it sometimes seems to me that only guns and murders are crimes now, because anything else that the government or law enforcement engages in, that people are quick to criticize. Recently, the Customs Department reported that a concerned citizen had come forward to say that they had been to a particular store in Charlestown and had seen a lot of masks, some of them apparently coming all the way down to one's chest area. And that the person reported they were alarmed when they were there to hear a young man come in asking to buy a mask. When I looked into it, it turned out that the importation of these masks is actually illegal. And somehow these had slipped through. And the customs responded and confiscated these illicit goods from the shelves, only to hear again the public outcry, oh, are you locking up masks for? Masks ain't killing nobody. I found it interesting that the last terrible tragedy we had, which is the murder of a young man, Mr. Liebert, in fact the son of my colleague, Minister Ian Patches Liebert, and I want to use this rostrum to extend my deep condolences to him and the young man's mom and his entire family. That when I saw those reports and saw that the assailants were masked, I thought to myself, well, masks may not kill people, but they allow and help to conceal those who are bent on criminality. And I want the public, and maybe the press can help, because too often it seems to me that members of the public are deciding what laws we can break and what laws we must abide by. In a country based on the rule of law, all laws must be obeyed. Whether it's tint, laws as to public lewdness, laws as to creating a nuisance, litter laws, you name them. All laws must be obeyed. And until such time as they are repealed, they have to be obeyed. And I want to make that very clear. And I've said to the police high command at our regular meetings that we want the laws of the island enforced. And so many of us want to break the laws and say, I got to make a living. I got to eat. Well, everybody has to eat. And it is not fair that you will hang up your T-shirt in the window of a man that's paying rent in Charlestown for his storefront. He inside selling the same T-shirt. You come and has his business license, paying his tax, paying his rent. You come hang up your T-shirt in his window outside, but you ain't paying nothing. And your excuse is you have to eat. Well, he has to eat too. So let us come to an understanding that everybody, and this government is prepared to work with everyone, but everybody must understand that you cannot so engage in your activity to cause problems for the other person. We must coexist, and that is why the law exists, to ensure that we can coexist in a peaceful way. Everybody knows these are the rules. Now, the vending in Charlestown, what has happened traditionally is that Fridays and Saturdays, the government has always allowed some looseness, some flexibility. We have allowed, for example, the food vendors. And we all know, we go and we get a piece of chicken, we get some goat water, whatever it is we get. And that has been part of island life. It's the same elsewhere. That is not so much the problem. What is now happening is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday and all, people are now blocking up the whole of Charlestown Every sidewalk. Sidewalks are meant for a purpose. They're meant for people to walk to avoid the traffic. Not for people to vend. And if you're vending on the sidewalk and somebody has to step off the sidewalk and into the traffic, what happens if that person has an accident? Your aunt says that you got to eat, so the person dead because you have to eat. We are saying, ladies and gentlemen, let us do things decently and in order. We cannot allow Charlestown to degenerate and disintegrate. We are saying that we have had a regime in place for weekend vending, and that if you want permission to vend on the weekend, Friday evening, I myself like to go and see the barbecue and get some of the barbecue. It's a part of our life and times on a weekend. Saturday, but Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Charlestown is not designed for that. And so I am asking our people to be responsible. If they want permission to vend, then they must seek permission from the government to go and vend on designated days on the weekend, the Friday and the Saturday. It is not a free-for-all. You can't just decide to pack your bag and bring into town, and any corner you find. You decide I'm going to lay out a sheet here and sell some CD and sell some mango and whatever else I want to sell. And nobody could tell me nothing. We will not and cannot permit that. And so I applaud the police, because the police are enforcing the law. That's what they're doing. People complain, they say fellas down in the square doing all kind of things, drinking rum, doing all kind of things they shouldn't be doing. And they complain, but the minute the police go and say, move along, this is not, oh, the police need to leave the people alone, they're not trouble nobody. We must, as a society, support what is right and support the law enforcement and the police in doing what is right. And little things sometimes lead to bigger things. Once people start to get a general sense of lawlessness, that you could do whatever you want, it's not a difficult thing thereafter. You start to cuss the police and all. They tell you move along, they tell you don't tell you nothing. The level of respect is eroded. And I'm saying that so long as we are privileged to be in this position of providing some leadership for this island, our rules, our laws, we have to ensure that we abide by them. And so those who are out there saying that we're trying to stop people from making a living, that is not so. We're saying to you, you must bring yourself in conformity with the law, and we're giving the police our fullest support in enforcing the law. No, it is not as if we're saying to vendors that if you have mango to sell or you have provisions to sell, that you must not sell. Just this morning on my way here, I checked with the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Hughie Sargent, and he says to me that there's room available in the market. The market was not so long ago, about a decade ago, fully redesigned and upgraded. It is available. On the occasions that I myself have gone, the market is in fact part of Caribbean life as well. But for some reason, we have a stall available in the market at a nominal rate. And people prefer to leave that stall empty and go out on the street and spread a blanket on the sidewalk. So it is not a situation where people have nowhere to vend. They have places to vend that have been provided for that purpose. It's a situation where they're choosing not to use the place and rather to decide that they're going to use the sidewalk. So they're running from what is lawful in place to go and do something that is unlawful. And so I want the public to really support us on this, because what we're trying to create is the proper environment in our city center. I see now some people along the byways of the island who are setting up kiosks. And I like it. To me it looks nice. You see people stopping and buying provisions and stuff. But it's not impacting traffic. It's not impacting in any way the free flow of traffic in a busy city center. And so we are asking the public to understand, the vendors to understand, that unless you have permission from the government, then you are not allowed to simply set up and vend in Charlestown. And if you want to vend, I'm told that we have stores that are still available at the market. And so we encourage you to take your vending there where it is designed to be. So please, we look for your cooperation and your understanding in that regard. On that note, I will close. I believe I've gone on perhaps a little longer than I normally do. And so I will close and invite any questions if there are. If there are no questions, then I will just say thank you and we end the conference. Oh, I see question already. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, government officials, friends of St. Kitts and Nevis, members of the media. Mr. Premier, that's a nice suit you're wearing there again. I like the tie as well, beautiful tie and your suit, kerchief there, looking, clearly you're the best dressed politician in St. Kitts and Nevis, I believe so. So congratulations for that.
I'm wondering what's going to come next. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Premier, last week I presented a statement to you in regards to our Integrity in Public Life Commission, and your response to me, Mr. Premier, was not so kind. You responded to me and you said, I didn't write that thing because I'm reading and I'm stumbling over the paragraphs, and I should not be a puppet for others. My mother is a nice lady, so I should be careful. You said all kind of things, Mr. Premier. And that was unfortunate because I think it was unfair to me as a member of the media. I am just here trying to do my job to the best of my ability. So that response was very unfair to me, and it was uncalled for, Mr. Premier. And we have school children listening as well, so we have to set an example. As me as a member of the media and you as the Premier, we have to set an example to the school children listening to us, because this is one Nevis now. We're trying to build a one Nevis where everybody love each other. We come together as one. Tender-hearted, forgiving one another. Because I'm just all right, let's get down to some serious business now.
Please.
Mr. Premier, since my statement last month, the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Joseph Parry, wrote what you would say as a long epistle to the Deputy Governor General, and he highlighted clear conflicts of interest in the commission. My question to you, that letter was to the Deputy Governor General, but he copied you as the Premier. He copied all the members of the commission. So my question to you, have you responded to that letter? That's question number one. And if you have responded to that letter, what is your position now and on the situation, and when will the office be operational? Those are my questions. Well, let's move on to another topic here. Let's talk about crime. Crime, Mr. Premier. Mr. Premier, we know the Prime Minister some days ago gave the army police powers in this country, but we know the army have army training. The army doesn't have police training. So I want to know, what is the objective of this? We know whenever the army in any country around the world is activated, we know that country is in a riot, a state of emergency, a crisis. Are we in a crisis in this country in regards to criminal activity? Mr. Premier, can you declare a state of emergency now? Are we in a state of emergency? Because the army is now roaming around with police powers, with no police training. So we want to know who the army is reporting to now. Are they reporting to the police commissioner? Are they reporting to the head of the army, the Prime Minister, you? We want to know who, because there's a number of army men all around now, and the citizens would like to know. Mr. Premier, Uwalipia, EIA. Mr. Premier, some time ago you admitted that the pay was started without proper EIA. And then you have since revised. The government has still stopped and start up again in regards to the EIA. So, but we still want to know who that contract was awarded to. How was the contract awarded? Details, sir. We need details on that matter. because we have freedom of information in this country now. So information should be all around for everybody to get. So can you give us some detailed presentation on that matter, sir? I don't think we have any more members here of the. Let me sit for now. I'll come back for another round. A member of the media will come and. Can you respond, Mr. Premier?
Okay.
Respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Handy. And you chastised me at the start, saying that I was harsh, and what I said to you last time was unnecessary. But you see how much better you are when you're doing your own thing. Today you're excellent, and that is the point I was trying to get across. So I do apologize if you thought my response was harsh last week, but it was only intended to make you a better journalist. And this week you have demonstrated that when you come with the questions and you can articulate yourself as you are more than able to, that they come across very clearly. You asked me about Mr. Parry's letter. He wrote to the Deputy Governor General for Nevis, acting Her Honor Marjorie Morton, raising, in fact, when I saw the copy of the letter, Mr. Handy, I confess I thought maybe it was the same authors, because the language was identical to the questions you had asked. And so it appears that great attention is paid to this press conference, because almost a verbatim response from Mr. Parry was produced and sent to the acting Governor General, Deputy Governor General for Nevis. It was addressed to her, and therefore it is not for me to respond. I was merely copied on it. So I would assume that Her Honor would respond in good time, if she has not already done so. My view, as I expressed last week, remains the same. I can see absolutely no conflict of interest on the part of any member. And I find it a little curious that there are 3 members for the Integrity in Public Life Commission. We have Alfred Tyrrell, nominated by Mr. Parry. Every election, Alfred Tyrrell is somewhere in the trenches with the NRP. I don't think it's within my realm or for me to say that Alfred Tyrrell is biased or that he can't come to an unbiased conclusion on the matter. He's clearly died in the whole NRP. He has been, as far as I've known him. He's an activist, but that is Mr. Parry's choice. The legislation is designed to allow Mr. Parry to choose one, for myself to choose one, and for somebody to be chosen independently of us both by the Deputy Governor General. That is what has happened. So he has chosen a political activist. I have no quarrel with him or his choice. In my view, Mr. Tyrrell appears to my mind on the surface to have the necessary qualifications. I have chosen someone who I do not know to be a political activist, but who I think has the necessary qualifications. And the Deputy Governor General has chosen someone, again, whom I do not know to be a political activist. I know he's a retired politician. He would have run some years distant past in St. Kitts. But I don't know that he's involved in the politics in Nevis. So, this big furor that was generated about the fact that the government does work with credit union, and one of the members works at the credit union, means he gets benefit from the government, and therefore he has a conflict. Well, all of us in Nevis would have a conflict if that's the case. I can't stand here today and tell you the government, banks with National Bank, First Caribbean, Bank of Nevis, Credit Union. We do business with all the banks on the island. RBTT as well. All the banks. So if that reason is correct, it means that not even a cashier at any of these banks could ever be involved with any type of commission such as this. And that clearly can't be sensible. You can't simply say because somebody works at an institution and that institution does business with the government as one of many institutions that do the same business with the government, that person somehow has a conflict. That to me is not a sensible or realistic conflict. And so my position remains the same. And Mr. Parry, with all due respect to him, did not say anything new. He said what you said. And that was it. So I don't think that there's anything I could usefully add on that. I think the commission, I said so, I believe, in response to some reporter that called me. There's a feeling that I'm getting, a niggling feeling that maybe the opposition doesn't want this integrity in public life thing at all. And I say so because they are and have been on record as saying it's not necessary. I believe one of them say you either have integrity or you don't. So you don't need any legislation. But this type of, furor that is being created over, to my mind, a simple matter. I just don't understand. My view is we have put the commission together. Let the people get on with the work and let the commission function. Right? I am always keen to guard against conflicts of interest. My colleagues will tell you, even in the cabinet. Whenever anything arises, I have an interest in a law firm, Daniel Brantley, it comes up, I excuse myself. We are always quick to guard against that, but really here, legitimately, Mr. Hanley, I cannot see the conflict that is being complained about. It is just too tenuous to really say that these people are somehow disqualified, who are highly trained individuals and highly qualified individuals. If they are disqualified, then Alpha Tyrrell must be disqualified as well, because he's a political activist. So that is my clear position on that, and I hope I don't offend Mr. Tyrrell, because sometimes the truth offends. I hope that is not, he doesn't take any offense on that. But I know, I call him an activist because every time in St. John's when I am campaigning, and on the day of election, I tend to see him. So that is what I would say. In relation to crime and criminality, it is an issue. You ask if there's a crisis, my response to you is that if one person gets shot and killed in this country, gets killed, to my mind, that's a crisis. The reality is that we have had a problem. The problem is not a new problem, but the problem continues to exist. And the Prime Minister, in his wisdom as Minister of National Security, has, after consultation with the Cabinet, decided that he wants to try this other aspect. I am aware, because I sit in his Cabinet as well, that it would have been a recommendation that would have come from the security forces, and that the police high command appeared to be comfortable with that recommendation. The truth be told, the police and the armed forces, the army, have been working together all along. They do patrols jointly, etc. So this is really only extending to an additional degree what is already being done by giving the army now arrest powers. In fact, I believe that I was informed that there was one matter where army personnel were out without a police officer accompanying them on one occasion, and actually found somebody with a firearm, and they didn't have arrest powers. So what do you do in that situation? So a lot of people, I think, are seeking to excite the public. Again, we have to decide, Mr. Hanley, what we want in our country. You have come here week after week and, bludgeon me about crime, as you ought to. You've come. You've said this is not acceptable, something must be done. So why is it then that every time the government seeks to do something, security forces seek to do something, the same people come and bash? How about saying, listen, we see a government that is trying, let us support and see if this initiative can work? No. We start to talk about state of emergency, crisis. We start to say all kinds of things. The country is being besieged. But the reality is, it is the same public that is crying out for solutions. So what we are doing as a government is seeking to respond to the public outcry. And I am not going to sit here and try to belittle or diminish that outcry. I think it's a legitimate outcry. We have a problem. We need to solve the problem. But every initiative, I spoke about the mask just now. The customs go and take up illegal masks. They get licks. What are troubling the people with their masks for? People start to talk about Halloween. I never know Halloween was a part of Singers Nevis' life. They need to be able to celebrate Halloween. Why the police disrupting their Halloween celebrations? That is the level to which we are prepared to go. So sometimes I ask myself, we want to solve the problem? Or we want to keep the problem so we have something to talk about? What do we want to do? We need to make up our minds. So the Prime Minister, he's charged, and I support this initiative, and he has indicated, and we will see how it works. I'm hopeful that the Army can, with that added arrest powers, that they can make a legitimate difference. Who are they reporting to? I would imagine the reporting lines remain. I am not sure in terms of reporting, but of course the Army would normally report to the head of the Army, and the police would report to the head of the police. I think when they have joint patrols, officers, the police would be the ones to take the lead, on joint patrol. So the Army provides support. Okay. The Orally Pier, I think I reported that Minister Jeffers, who is charged with that project, has indicated that the project is proceeding apace. You are absolutely correct. There were some deficiencies in the EIA, and what we did was decided to stop the project and then get those corrected, and then we have restarted the project, which we thought was a responsible thing to do. And so that is what we did. We were delayed, but our thinking was it's better to do it properly than to focus on doing it quickly. So we are hopeful now that at the end of this we have a facility that can serve all of Nevis. So I hope I've touched the issues that you've raised, and I look forward to your second round of questions. Anyone else?
Good morning. Monique Washington, St. Kitts Nevis Observer newspaper. Mr. Premier, after the last murder in Nevis, Mr. Everson Smith, the NIA announced a $25,000 fund that will provide a reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of guilty persons. First question, where is the money coming from for the fund? And can you give us a little bit more information on the fund? Like, is it a line that someone calls into? Does it work like Crime Stoppers? How Crime Stoppers, is it different from that? And also, as it relates to persons coming forward with information, how will they be protected? And the second question comes, I think it was after the first speech in the House. You would have mentioned that the NIA would seek to appoint a lawyer who works specifically with the police force in Nevis in the office of the DPP. Can you give us a little bit more or an update on that? Has the person already been selected? If not, when will that happen?
Thank you very much, Ms. Washington. The fund of $25,000, the funding would come from the NIA. And the Ministry of Finance would seek to find the $25,000 to ensure that anybody who came forward with information would be able to receive their reward. There was no special hotline or anything of that set up. The idea was that the police, we were working closely with the police, and if the police would come and say that this person brought information that was satisfactory, then they would be able to benefit from it. So we didn't set up any sort of specific hotline geared to this particular matter. It was merely a matter that the police have indicated that it's an ongoing investigation, and I trust them to come forward to say that this information provided from Mr. A or Mr. B was helpful, and therefore we ought to make some payment to them. So that really is how it was intended. Insofar as protection of persons, I think the police continue to do their best. We have, where it comes to a point that individuals are going to testify or something like that, we now have programs in place if those programs become necessary. We have persons now in witness protection in other countries. So the government does have a mechanism in place if the police determine that this is something that is actually required. Information, let us remember, can come in different ways. There may be some who saw the crime and can come to the court and testify. There are others who say, listen, here's some intel. I believe if you go so and so, you may find a firearm, and then that firearm is traced to the crime. So there are various ways that you can do that. But the intention would be to incentivize people to do what they should do naturally. But we understand that sometimes people need to be incentivized to do what they ought to do. And so the idea of the $25,000 fund was really to encourage people who had information, not only in relation to Mr. Smith's murder, but in relation to any of the others on Nevis, that the police would advise the government and we would issue monies accordingly. So that was the intention behind it. So it's not an elaborate scheme or elaborate setup. It was just to incentivize information leading to the arrest and conviction of anybody involved with those murders. In relation to the lawyer, I neglected to mention months ago that has already been fulfilled, that commitment. We have a young lady, Megan Nisbet, who is a young lawyer, and Megan has been working now with the police, assisting with prosecution. I just want to make it very clear that while the NIA is funding her, paying her salary, she does not take any instructions from the NIA. She is governed by and takes instructions from and is managed by the Director of Public Prosecutions in St. Kitts. What was happening, and I think we said so in the throne speech, or certainly in the early days of the Parliament, that we had a situation where the police officers were being called upon to do the prosecutions. And many of the police officers, they know the law, but they're not trained lawyers. And so we thought that we could support them in our ongoing effort to demonstrate our commitment to safety and security. We could support them by getting a trained lawyer at our expense to work with them under the supervision of the Director of Public Prosecutions. So the young lady has, in fact, been in place for some weeks now. And we hope that that is of value to the police and their prosecution, and we hope that that will be of value generally to the enhanced safety and security of the island.
So is this at the High Court level or at the Magistrate Court level?
Well, she would serve as the DPP directs. So as I said, what we have done is we have made some room in our budget to fund her, but she is there to assist the police under the supervision of the DPP. So I would assume if the DPP needs her to appear in the High Court, he would call on her to do so. And if he needs her to appear in the Magistrate's Court, where the police would normally do the prosecutions, he would call on her to do so. So I don't think there's any limitation on that. That would be as the DPP directs.
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
Abel, SKN Vibes. I have several questions. One, in recent weeks we've seen the opposition federally, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, has been calling for the Prime Minister to resign from his portfolio as Minister of National Security. And your name has been tossed out by the opposition. Should that
my name
should
has
we
been
reach
tossed.
that position?
What do you mean tossed?
Okay.
I'm not understanding what
they're
you're
saying it should go to Minister Brantley.
The opposition is recommending me for position?
Yes.
Yes.
Should it reach to that position, would you accept the portfolio as Minister of National Security? Secondly, for the public's knowledge, recently there was a statement issued with regards to security measures being implemented by the Shenzhen countries for the 61 countries that do not have or do not require visas to travel. Can you just, for the public's knowledge, explain the new procedure that will be implemented in 2020? On the issue of crime, would you support, whether or not it be at the Nevis level, a curfew in light of what is happening with regards to crime? To the government's $500 a month initiative. Can you just give us a little bit more insight? I know you mentioned earlier about this whole voucher system. Can you just tell us how will it be funded? And how will, just basically give us a bit more insight into how the entire program will work, and how, if it's a voucher system, businesses would be involved in this entire makeup of this. And just quickly, if you could just tell us the reasons for the Deputy Governor General vacating her position, basically.
Okay. Let me start where you ended. I don't know that there's a reason for the Deputy Governor General vacating. She indicated to us from the start that she would not be prepared to be confirmed in the position. She was only prepared to act until such time. And she indicated to us, I think, a few months ago, that she was not prepared to go beyond August. Let us remember that these are individuals who are retired for the most part. They are people who have served long and hard already. And some people do want an opportunity to have a bit of downtime, so to speak. I think that Her Honor Marjorie Morton would have served us with great distinction over the short period of time she was with us, I think about a year. And she really and truly, I think, has come to a point where she has indicated, and I want to emphasize that she has indicated that she's not prepared to go beyond the 31st of August. And so that really was for us to find someone, and we have found Mrs. Liebert to replace her. So there's no other reason other than that. The $500 system, I did mention the voucher, but I believe that the mechanics are still being worked on as to how the payment will be effected. There are many in the public square who are saying that just give people $500 in the hand and let them do with it what they want. Certainly my own view is, and I've share that view with the Prime Minister, that I believe that any assistance should be more meaningful than that. What I mean by that is it should ensure that people are getting the essentials. So food, utilities, and the like. Your electricity, your water, your food, maybe your contribution to your rent, these kinds of things, rather than a free-for-all. Because we ought not to be too shy about admitting it, that if you put $500 in some people's hand, they go down by the hair shop, the nail shop, the whatever shop, and then at the end of the day, the children may still be at home not having food in the house. Because whilst we continue to preach and beg our people to be more responsible, the truth is that in every society we have people who are not. And so the idea is that to use this money for the real purpose of ensuring that our people can enjoy a better standard of living. So the mechanics of it are still being worked out. There's some debate as to whether it's going to be like a card, debit card, or it's going to be an actual voucher. Is it going to be something that is negotiable only at certain supermarkets and stores, or will it be negotiable generally? And I'm just, right now, even though it hasn't started, the payouts haven't yet started, let me use this opportunity to encourage our people. Because I'm told there are other systems in place and people find very creative ways to beat the system. And instead of getting food, they get alcohol, for example. They get cigarettes. And I'm just encouraging our people. There's a program designed to help and to ensure that people can get food, ensure that people can pay their light bill, etc. That is what the program is engineered to do. It's a legitimate program to alleviate poverty. And so we're asking our people to be responsible in relation to that and how it is dealt with. Would I support a curfew? Absolutely. If it came to that, and if that was the recommendation of the security forces, yes. I do not know that we are at that point as yet, but certainly if the security forces were to come and say that in any particular area they're having this difficulty, then certainly that is something that I would support. I'm guided by them. I have confidence in them. And I think in our several meetings since I've been privileged to be in this position as Premier, I believe that confidence is well placed. And so I will be guided by them and listen to them in terms of whatever recommendations they would make. The Schengen countries, you're absolutely correct that they are looking at their procedures. I can tell you that St. Kitts and Nevis has not been included in their original press release that I saw in terms of countries that will now be subjected to some additional scrutiny. What it is, however, is the same thing with Canada, that you have to put, language eludes me at the moment, but you have to send your information in advance of the flight coming in. I think Canada has a term that they use, but essentially the information on each passenger goes ahead. And so they have time to check and, if necessary, to decide they don't want A or B to enter. So that really is not a visa imposition. It's rather an early clearance system, so to speak. And I know Canada uses it now. Even for those who do not require a visa to go to Canada, they have to send it information. So the airlines will send information in advance. They go online and they put that information in, and that goes off before the person actually gets on the flight. So it gives the authorities in those countries sort of an advance warning of who's coming on a particular flight, so they can then make a determination. As I said, the press release I saw did not include St. Kitts and Nevis. It did say that other countries might be included in the future, but St. Kitts and Nevis was not one of those at this point. But nevertheless, it is not a visa imposition, and we don't think that it will add any additional burden really to travel, other than going online and entering the information as necessary. You say my friends in the opposition have proposed me for Minister of National Security. They say, well, we must always be wary of Greeks bearing gifts. And if they're going to suggest me, then I don't know why they are suggesting me. Let me just say that I'm prepared to play any role that the Prime Minister asks me to play, bearing in mind that it is within his purview to assign portfolios. I, however, feel that the Prime Minister has been doing a good job as Minister of National Security, bearing in mind that we inherited a very difficult situation, and we have now the responsibility to try to turn that situation around. We have invested considerable amounts of money. In fact, I believe that the records will show that it is the most money ever invested in national security has been under this government. We have continued to invest in training and development of our personnel. Even as we speak, we have hired some expertise from overseas to come in and to assist our police, and they're here on the ground now with us. We have hired advisors. We have hired trainers. We have invested in forensic facilities. So a considerable amount has been done. I think what we're now waiting on is the dividends from that investment. And the pressures on the security forces, because they have asked for vehicles, they get vehicles. They've asked for various things, and the government has tried to respond. And so it is now for them to produce. But even as I say that, I will not shift from my constant refrain that the public also has a role to play. Too many members of the public are sitting back. They have information, and they're saying, let the police go out and solve the problem. How is the police going to do it if you don't help them? And I say it, and I will say it until the media is tired of hearing it, in every country in the world. Every country in the world with the most sophisticated police and security forces, the best listening devices and drone technology and camera and CCTV system, it is still you and I, members of the public, who help solve crime. But the police cannot be everywhere all the time. So the police themselves depend on us. I travel throughout the great United States of America, and you see the signs them all over. See something, say something. Well, why do you think they have those signs? If it's only the police responsible. See something, say something is there because they are inviting the public to be a part of it. And I like to watch them crime shows. They call it 48 hours. First 48 or something so. And when you watch them, first thing they do, they put out a bulletin. So they're looking for a fella in a green tie and a white shirt. Last seen at a press conference for the premier. And once they put that out, the guy says he sits by the phone and he waits. So that means he's depending on members of the public. That's what he's depending on. So I think that the public here needs to play their part as well. And we cannot, as I go back to what I said earlier, want crime to stop. Want safety and insecurity. Want safety and security, but are not willing to cooperate with the police or to assist the police. That tells me you don't really want it. If you really want it, you must invest. And you invest in terms of your time, your energy, and your information with the police. Any other questions?
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning, sir.
And to those present, Marvin Ross on radio. You spoke about the vending in Charlestown. You suggested that individuals, they could get a permit to do their vending over the weekends, but many individuals out there, they do it throughout the week so that they can make a living. It was suggested that the market is there, and that's the purpose for the market. Individuals out there may say that there isn't enough space at the Charlestown Public Market for all of these individuals to be in there to vend. If that is the case, would the Nevis Island administration make accommodations for these individuals to carry out their vending to make a living? Because individuals out there probably may not have means to rent a place in Charlestown, to pay these various taxes. So would the Nevis Island administration take it under consideration to find a place? And also, could individuals out there get a permit to vend throughout the week, or would it just be on the weekend? Second question, at your 5th press conference, I recall you mentioning that it was suggested to the Canadian government to have St. Kitts and Nevis as one of the hubs for passports. Could you give us an update as to the progress towards that? This month, about 2 weeks ago, there was a conference in St. Kitts, the Ministry of Education, pertaining to the CXC examination and the results. The Honorable Sean Richards, he noted that there were a number of absences for the examination, and that would lead the government to rethink on their policy of subsidizing the cost of these examinations. Firstly, of the number of absentees, let's say it was 100, could you say of the 100, how much of these absentees were from Nevis? And is the Nevis Island administration will be seeking to put measures in place to reduce these occurrences, these absences? My final question is relating to national security here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Defense Force recently was given policing powers. As you mentioned, a Defense Force officer found an individual with a gun and, didn't have the powers to arrest that individual. I know they go through various training in order to get to their stages, police and law Defense Force. But from my understanding of it, the Defense Force goes through a more rigorous training. Does this extending policing powers to them, should individuals out there may be saying, is this a good idea? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? Because people out there may be of the thinking that the training of Defense Force officers and them handling cases out there when it comes to arrest of individuals out there breaking the law, it may be seen as an abuse of power. Some individuals may see it as that. So should people out there be of concern now that individuals, the Defense Force has policing power, with their handling of, cases, individuals being seen as an abuse of power?
Well, I don't see it as an abuse of power. I see it as another effort by the government and by the security forces to attempt to arrest the situation that the public is clamoring about, the situation of crime. It is another effort, just like CCTV is an effort, just like the forensic lab is an effort. It is another effort by the government to arrest the problem. And so I don't see that as being abusive at all. I think that what we tend to do is we judge a situation before we give it an opportunity to work. Now, if a month from now people were to say, well, the army is out there doing this or doing that, then we know that the situation has not worked, and then we'll need to recalibrate. But right now, I think, let us give it an opportunity to work. This is a recommendation that came, a recommendation that was considered, and the idea is to buttress and support the police by getting the army men involved and giving them additional powers. That is all it is. I don't see the abuse of power at all in that regard. In relation to CXC, I do not have that information, so I cannot respond to that, because you asked about absentees and how many from Nevis were among those numbers. I have not been given that information, so I do not know if we had any absentees from Nevis, and if so, how many. So I regret that I would have to punt on that one and come back on another occasion with that answer. You asked about Canada. Yes, I indicated that we discussed with them. You said a hub for passports, but in reality what we're asking is that they use St. Kitts and Nevis as a data gathering center for the visa applications. They said they would look at it. We have not yet had any response from them, other than that they are looking at it in terms of where they're going to position these centers. I had heard some suggestion of Barbados, but of course our concern was that to travel to Trinidad or to travel to Barbados, both were quite expensive, and that was the issue that we had raised with them. So one of the other things we had asked them is to consider an itinerant gathering center where they would move around the islands and gather data from those desirous of being getting a visa to travel to Canada. So we are still awaiting the Canadians on that. Vending, you say, what if the market is full, and what should happen then? I like to say, let us fill the market first, and then we make a determination. Because I am persuaded that the market is where we ought to go. Those of us who are buying and those of us who are selling. And that if there is space in the market, as the Ministry of Agriculture is telling me, then we should encourage people to utilize those spaces. The rental there is nominal. You can recall how much it is? $5 a day or something like that. Right? So it is really nominal. And so people have no valid excuse not to take their produce there and vend it from there. And it's creating, again, I go back to the example I started out and say, somebody rents a store in Charlestown. You come and you hang your T-shirts in their window on the outside. They're selling the same T-shirts on the inside. Same thing with those who are doing the right thing and going to the market to vend. And then somebody sets up a blanket outside the market, selling the same sweet potato, and saying they're going to catch the crowd as the crowd is walking by. It's not fair to the people who are doing the right thing. And so the man who's inside the market sees that and says, well, why am I paying $5 to be in here when they are out there on the sidewalk? Let me go out on the sidewalk too. And so over the years what you've seen is a progression of people moving out of the market and moving onto the street. And we're saying it's just not, it's not something that is sustainable. And again, we invite our people to do the right thing. Go in the market, get a stall in the market, and your customers know where you are, and they will find you. And do away with this thing that is developing where it's a free-for-all. When I go to some capitals around the region, and I'm telling you, it's bedlam. It's absolute pandemonium. Every inch of sidewalk is overtaken by vendors. And that is what happens, I think, when the government doesn't stand up from early o'clock and say, no, we cannot allow this. So again, I want to emphasize, it is not about trying to stop people from making a living, but rather to say to people, bring yourself within the confines of the law and let everybody play by the same rules. It's not fair to somebody who's in the market when you're out on the sidewalk in front of the market selling the same produce. So we're inviting everybody to go into the market and to create this space. If that is the case and it turns out that we have more demand than space, then that is something I'm sure the Ministry of Agriculture will look at and the government will be prepared to consider to see how we can make additional space available. But for now, we don't have any plans to allow vending in town on a daily basis, because that defeats the purpose. So the only vending is the people who would come on a Friday evening and Saturday, because we think that's part and parcel of island life. But we don't want a situation where every day of the week, the sidewalks, the squares. I see people string a line, like a clothesline across the square. The square that is set up to honor our war dead. Man string a clothesline selling Bob Marley and Marcus Garvey t-shirt. And then people say, oh, let the people alone, leave them. No. We have to decide that this is not what we want. It's just not what we want for the island. And we're not trying to stop people at all, but rather saying to them, just bring yourself and do the right thing. Right? And we're prepared to work with people. I'm hearing the number $5. $5 a day. How much for a pound of tomatoes? Right? So if you're going to pay $5 a day for a stall in the market, and a pound of potatoes is more than $5. By the time you sell 1 pound, you don't make back that. So just do what is responsible. It's not always that it's about the economics. Some people just decide, I'm not going to go in the market. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to go on the sidewalk in front of Evelyn's drugstore. I'm going to go on the sidewalk in front of wherever the food center, wherever we have. Because that is just what they feel. And people almost feel they have a right to do it. That's the attitude you get. So I am supporting the police on this. And I'm saying let us just enforce the law. But let us also say to our people that for those who want to vend, there are opportunities available to you in the public market. Are there any more questions for me?
Hello again, Mr. Premier. Education. Mr. Premier, in your presentation, you gave a number of congratulations to students who have done very well in school. And we tend to do that as a society, which is good. I congratulate those who have done well, But I want to focus more on those students who are slipping through the cracks every year, because they are in the majority, Mr. Premier. In 2017, last year, for example, approximately 65% of students leaving school came out of school with 0 CSEC passes. Not even one. So if 100 students left school last year, you had about 65 of them with no CSEC subjects at all. So if 300 students left school, 195 of them left with 0 CSEC subjects. So I want to know, that is in my view, that is not good at all. That's an education crisis in my view. So I want to know what is the percentage of school leavers for this year who would have passed 0 CSEC subject. And let me give you a little education scenario, Mr. Premier. You have 2 schools, for example, School A, which is Charlestown, and School B, which is Gingerland. Charlestown, let's say Charlestown Secondary School, allows all of their students who are leaving school to sit at least 1 CSEC subject. But 100% of school leavers to sit at least 1 CSEC subject. But Charlestown only, year on year, Charlestown only accumulate a percentage of 70% pass rate. Or, let's say School B, Gingerland, who only allows 50% of their students to sit CSEC subjects every year. But Gingerland comes out every year with a pass rate of averages 98%. Which school would you send your child to? School A, which is Charlestown, which allows all of their students to sit at least 1 CSEC subject, but only get a pass rate of 70%, or School B, which is Gingerland, which only allows 50%, half of the students who would have been leaving school to sit CSEC subject, but get a very high pass rate every year, 98%. And what are your thoughts on streaming at schools? Streaming is like 1A1, 1A2, 1A3, because we have a streaming system. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanley. I think very thought-provocative and thought-provoking questions. Education is, as you know, a fundamentally important part of any society. It's also a notoriously difficult thing to manage because people learn in different ways and at different rates, different speeds. Some people develop at different stages in life. Some show academic potential quite young. Others, in my day, we used to call them late bloomers, and they bloom a little later. I think all that you have said has merit, and I would be lying if I said to you standing here today that I have ready answers for you. I think that these are matters that the education technicians and the officials keep looking at. They've come up with the plan, what's it called, the education sector plan, is that what it's called, PS, Minister? Yes. The education sector plan, which takes us to 2021, I think, yes. Which seeks to address some of the issues, and they're thorny issues, and there's no one correct answer in my view. Should we, for example, do as we are seeking to do, to trend towards more vocational training? We have the TVET system that we are trying to introduce. We will be, in conjunction with SINKITS, hopefully building out some infrastructure later this year and into next year for TVET. Because, again, some people are not necessarily interested in French and Spanish, but they're very good with their hands. And you give them anything to fix and they can fix it. So how do you cater for those? Because the current system is heavily geared, as we all know, towards the academic side. One of the complaints I've had for years now, for example, is music. We have NCDF, and NCDF goes into the schools, the primary schools, and does music. By the time those students reach the third form, music done, stop. Because the system is now designed that as of third form, they have to start to prepare themselves for exams. So, who knows, maybe there could be another David Freeman who was coming through. But because there's that hiatus, and then parents too. Because if your parent normally is given the choice and said, will I send my young son to get drumming lessons or piano lessons extra, or do I send for extra math or English? 9 out of 10 of the parents are going to say, let them go and do extra math or English. So I think that the questions are profound because they challenge all of us to think about our education system generally and to say how we can make it better and more fit for purpose and how we can make it serve more people. And that's a challenge that we face. The standard litmus test for excellence is still exam results. Still exam results. but there is not necessarily a direct correlation between those exam results and how people eventually end up in life. Meaning, a successful businessman. I think I've heard stories about Bill Gates. Wasn't Bill Gates a dropout from college? People like those, and gone on to be one of the wealthiest men in the world and one of the most successful. It is possible that what he was learning in college was not fit for purpose for him, because I said people learn differently. So I feel that you've asked some questions. I regret that as I stand here, I don't have all the answers because it continues to be a work in progress. You asked, for example, a school that allows more students to sit exams but probably gets a lower pass rate. Is that a better school than one that allows fewer students and a higher pass rate? All of these are very legitimate questions, Mr. Hanley, and I think that reasonable people can come down on both sides, or either side, and still have a reasonable position. I feel that we need to work with this system that we have. We need to adjust it as we go, and we need to make it more fit for purpose for our needs as a society and our developmental level now and the path on which we're going to go. I, for one, am very, very supportive of TVET because I feel that we need certification for our technical skills and trades people. A lot of our people know how to run blocks. They know how to build a house, but they don't have a single piece of paper to show. And so if they were ever to leave Nevis to go to Jamaica or to go to the United States and say, I want to run blocks, they say, well, where's your paper? Where's your certificate? I say, but I've been doing it for 20 years. Where's your certificate? And they have nothing. So I feel that we need to do more. We need to allow more of our students to participate, but to do what they're inclined to do, rather than to force them, which is, I think, the current system forces students. And some students are bright, naturally. So if you put them to do almost anything, they will get through because they have that academic bent. Others are just not interested in that. So no matter what you tell them, goes through one year and comes to the next. Right? But they may be a gifted athlete. They may be the next Usain Bolt. They may be a gifted basketball player or cricketer. A gifted poet. We don't a gifted singer or songwriter or a gifted musician. So we have to find a way to encourage and bring out the best in all of the children. And it is difficult to do. I'm not here suggesting it's easy to do, because some of the systems, and I sometimes feel for our teachers, because you think about our teachers, and at the end of the day, they too are judged on the same academic performance of the children. So if they had a class of 100 and only 2 pass, they say, well, that teacher is a failure. So what the system is designed to push that teacher to weed out people from early. The teacher prefers to only have 5 people do the exam and get 100% pass rate than to have 20 people do and then 10 pass. More pass, yes, but then the pass rate is only 50%, and people say that teacher is not performing. So we have to look top to bottom on the system, and I think that that's important. So that's something that I agree with you. I will just pass the note because I said I didn't have the information earlier. The person who asked about absentees from the exams, these are people, I assume you mean, who were registered but didn't show up for the exam. I'm told that overall in St. News we had 128 people who registered but didn't show up. At Gingerland Secondary, there was no absenteeism. So everybody who registered in Gingerland showed up to write the exams. At Charleston Secondary, we were told there were 14 people who didn't show up to write. At Nevis International, there were again 0. So for Nevis, we only had 14 of the 128 that were recorded for St. Kitts and Nevis. So we'll have to look at that and see where we go in relation to that. Mr. Hanley, lastly, you said the students, we congratulate those who did well and that we have others who fall through the cracks. I don't see them as falling through the cracks. I just think that they have different interests and we need to work with them. And there are lots of people here in our society who, quote-unquote, fell through the cracks because they left high school and they didn't have subjects. But them same people now have 4 and 5 and sometimes more subjects because we still have the ability to later on decide I'm going to do a subject or 2. And so it's a continuous process of bettering oneself, so to speak. So that also exists. You asked me about streaming. My own views, again, this is a system that we have. I think we'll have to look to see how we can tweak it to make it better. I can understand where the system comes from and why it is utilized, because of course it allows you to have students. But what I would like to see, going back to my preference for vocational training, is that those students could be streamed in that direction who are inclined in that way. So if a student wants to learn piano or wants to learn carpentry, how do you stream them in that direction? So that the streaming is not, currently the streaming is only about academics. 1A1, 1A2, 1A3, 1A4. But can we stream people? I was in Taiwan recently, for example. Taiwan has entire campuses dedicated to vocational training. And so where we go high school at 12, at that age, students and their parents can decide, listen, I'm going to shift my child in this direction. Because he don't want to be a scientist. He wants to be a mechanic. He wants to know how to fix and install AC. So he goes off to a campus, and when he's done, he gets a full-fledged certification, just like the child that goes off and gets CSEC or whatever that child gets. So maybe ultimately that's the direction we want to go in, or can go in, so that instead of streaming only in terms of academic placement, we also stream people in terms of ability and in terms of interest, you know, and we can probably get more students trained in vocational courses as well. Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Premier made some good points in regards to the streaming, because I did a little bit of research, and the Institute of Education in London did a long research, and what they said is that streaming only helped those who are academically gifted, the brightest pupils, and nobody else. So they said basically they did research, and the children in the top streams achieved significantly more, which we are seeing now with the distinction and everything. But those in the lower streams did worse than when they mix up everybody together. So we have a system which streams, and this only help the brightest among. So guys like Raul J and guys who are academically gifted will be very successful in that system, which is the system that we have here. And it also said basically widespread use of streaming will do little or nothing to arrest the difficulties faced by children from disadvantaged background. That is what. And it also said the streaming undermines the attempts of governments to raise attainment for all children, whatever their socio-economic status. So we're trying to build an economy, a more vibrant economy, but the streaming that we have, this is saying is undermining it, because it's only geared towards the academically gifted students and nobody else. It doesn't help anybody else.
Well, I mean, as I said, I take the point. I think that these are matters that the education officials will have to look at. And you've heard my views in relation to streaming, academic streaming vis-a-vis streaming, that will look at shifting some students into vocational training, for example. So that is as much as I could say.
All right. And let me touch a little bit on the poverty alleviation program. You mentioned that it will only run for 2 weeks.
The information gathering.
Information gathering will only run for 2 weeks. Yes. But this is a problem because poverty is continuous. Let's say after the 2 week period, circumstances change. You qualify in that 2 weeks, but a month after you get a job that's paying you $6,000 a month. Yeah. How will the system, will that person be collecting $500 still?
Yeah. Well,
and vice versa?
That's a good question. And, sorry.
And that suggests, is it a short-term program then? Because it suggests to me, if it was long-term, we would have an office somewhere that took data all year round. But because it's just 2 weeks registration, that suggests to me that those who get in during that 2 weeks, they're going to be the only ones who benefit. So those coming after, and if their circumstances change, nobody taking any more data. No. So,
well, I think I understand that the assumption you have come to, but it would be incorrect. The initial phase is the 2 weeks to gather information to start the program. Thereafter, the program will be monitored. It has to be. And I mentioned in my opening remarks that as we talk about increase in the minimum wage, etc., that we are hopeful as the economy grows that people are moved off and those people may well be replaced by others who are coming. So the idea is one of continuous supervision, continuous monitoring of the situation to move some families off that assistance if they have now, as you say, got a better job or more people in the household are now working as a case. Remember, it's per household. So that if one person alone is in the household now, as we do the survey, but 2 months later, 3 people in the household are working, then that household may no longer be eligible.
So the 6 months also you got people.
Well, I don't have a time frame, but I do know that the Social Services Department would be mandated to monitor on an ongoing basis. And equally, because this program now is being introduced, but Nevis and St. Kitts both already have quite a substantial number of programs to assist in a poverty alleviation already. So those programs were managed through social services and through the social welfare and the social services department, and we have trained professionals there who are and have been engaging with the communities. So it is not that way, as you say, you have a office that is set up just for this program. The ministry will monitor, the ministry will manage, and the ministry will feed the information back as to those who would have graduated from the program and maybe new people that need to be brought onto the program. So it would be an ongoing process. But for the first tranche, the first phase, it's a 2-week exercise of gathering the information so we could start the program.
Because I wanted to comment on this. You know, the opposition Labour Party is saying that the registration process is used as an election strategy. They're trying to gather data and then they're going to slice up the boundaries accordingly based on household and however they're going to do it. So what are your thoughts on that? Because they're saying it's a political strategy. It's short-term and it's just used so that they could gather all that data. For example, if Tom live up the road with 5 houses, you know, okay, there's a lot of people living in that house. There's a lot of areas. So they're going to slice up, do the boundary changes based on the data that they would have gathered, but they're using money to get the people to register.
Well, first of all,
data for election purposes.
But first of all, Mr. Hanley, that is absurd on its face, because clearly the majority of people are not going in to register for this program. This program offers those households that are making less than $3,000 a month. And by no stretch of the imagination would that be an average household in St. Christopher and Nevis. So if the government was gathering data for boundary purposes, it means that they are capturing only a small number of the population from this particular program. Secondly, I don't put too much trust in what the Labour Party has to say, because they were the same ones who said it was impossible and it couldn't happen. And I always find it odd when people say something is impossible, it can't happen, and then when it starts happening, they now want to tell you how it ought to be done. But since they said it was impossible, my view is let us do it, because we said it was possible. And you just be quiet, because insofar as you were concerned, you said that this could never come to pass. It was not possible, it was a gimmick, it was all of these descriptions were given. And we are now saying, yes, it is coming to pass. So my advice to the Labour Party, leave this one alone.
But why? They're also saying that the government, the Team Unity administration, had 4 years. They had a long time to do it, but they wait until just before election is around the corner.
Why didn't they
do it early on?
But around which corner?
Why
election
didn't they do it early on in the term?
Mr. Hanley, but again, I say...
They are now saying that Team Unity created the poverty because there was no poverty. And now there is poverty now. They have to do poverty alleviation.
But Mr.
So
Hanley,
they implemented that first because the country was running good. That's
but you shouldn't repeat everything you hear, because something you hear, you know, is nonsense. So you shouldn't repeat that, you know. A man told me the other week he saw a jumbie up the road. I wouldn't come and repeat that because I don't believe he saw a jumbie. So, you know, some of these guys who say these things, you know, they're not being serious. A poverty assessment was done in this country before Unity came to office, and it showed poverty rates of as high as 30%. As high as 30%.
Well, why would they wait 4 long years before
they
could
four
start
long
this
years,
process?
but
they still got to gather data.
But listen, every party that runs in an election is given a 5-year mandate. Every party. When this Unity administration got in, they started to say, oh, you're not dealing with the good governance. You're not doing the integrity in public life. You're not doing freedom of information. It is for the government to determine its agenda. and how it will roll out its agenda. And the government has determined that this is the way it will do so. I hear this talk about election around the corner. I don't know around which corner. Because the last election we had was January of 2015. It means we have until January plus February of 2015, I'm sorry. It means that we have February plus what? About 3 months into 2020. Right? We are now in August of 2018. How could anybody, right-thinking member of this community say, oh, this election around the corner? Around which corner? We have nearly another 2 years to go before we have an election.
Well, it could be any time now.
Well, it could be. It could have been last month. It could have been last year.
Yes, that's
but to suggest that it's around the corner and therefore this is a gimmick, I mean, this is just not accurate. And that is why I keep saying that is not everything that we hear. We need to repeat. Some things you let them go in one year and come out the next.
Can you give us an approximate date or month when I don't even know what they're giving out, food stamps or money or whatever, but whatever it is, can you give us an approximate date?
I don't have a date, but it will
be any time.
It will be
next
this year.
March, next year, February, next year.
It will be this year.
September.
It will be this year.
It will be this year.
Yes.
Guaranteed.
The intention was that it would have been in September. But we were delayed because the Nevis end was delayed because of Culturama, and Culturama intervened. So it will be this year for sure. Because I know when we had our discussions, we wanted to roll it out around independence, that kind of period of time. But I don't think that will be possible.
This is September and October. You have 3 months to do it.
Well,
so you're guaranteeing us then that it's going to be this year for sure.
Asked and answered, Mr. Hanley.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We've been here for a long time. I just want to thank everyone for coming again for another press conference. We hope to do it again next month, God willing. And I want to wish everyone a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Please remember that on the 16th of September, we have the National Heroes Concert, Steel Pulse and Third World on the same stage in Nevis for a free concert. Wear your national colors. And we look forward to seeing you on Friday as we celebrate with and inaugurate our new Deputy Governor General for Nevis, Mrs. Hailita Liebert. Thank you. God bless you.